welcome in. Happy Super Bowl week. Let's fucking go.
Who would have thought we would have made it this far? I mean, at the beginning of the year, if you were to tell me, hey, like, we were going to start the season on time, we weren't going to push back to a week 18, there weren't going to be any games postponed, and we're going to start the Super Bowl on time, I would have told you whatever drugs you're on, I want a hit of, and I am pleasantly surprised. I did not think we were going to make it to this. I thought we were probably going to have another week or two buffer before this game started, and hats off to the NFL. I am thoroughly impressed.
Spot on, dude. Even though they had their hiccups in the season with how they made their calls on some of these COVID situations, they pushed right along, and if everything goes well, they could be the one sports team that actually completes a 2020 season as like a normal schedule. It really is impressive.
Yep. On top of that, they're going to have 25,000 people in the stands. I think about 7,500 of those 25,000 are going to be healthcare workers that they donated tickets to that are already vaccinated. But you guys are spot on, man. I mean, I think we've got to give props to Roger Goodell in the NFL office. Those guys always love to make a buck, and not even a pandemic is going to slow them down when they want to make their money. But we all had our doubts, man. Especially back in April when this thing kind of launched. Everybody was like, "There's no way in hell the NFL is going to have a full season." But it's been a absolute marvel to get through this season.
It's exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to watching another Super Bowl, and it's going to be different. Obviously, I don't know if you guys saw a bunch of the advertisement companies are not paying money for their advertisements, but nevertheless, it's going to be a little bit of normalcy having the Super Bowl in the beginning of February.
I'll say this much though: I don't know if I'm ready for a half hour of the weekend for a halftime show.
No, give it to me.
I'm ready.
Give it to me.
I'm a big fan of the weekend.
I'm kind of good. Like I might step outside and hang out for a half hour.
Well, Puma, generally speaking, I'm the kind of guy that hates the theater around the Super Bowl because I'm there for the game. Like I don't like when people come over and watch it with you and make jokes about the commercials because I'm so in tune to the game, and most of the times the Patriots are there, so I watch it by myself. And I generally skip the halftime show, but this year I'm ready for it. I love me some Weeknd. I think he's a great performer, great artist. I think he's gonna put on a hell of a show. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
I'm looking forward to it too, and I kind of echo what you said about the theatrics around the Super Bowl. I'm not a huge fan of it. Yeah. Back when the Patriots played the Falcons, Lady Gaga was the halftime show. Chantel was all about it, all excited about it. And halftime the Patriots are getting spanked. She's getting all excited. I'm like, I really do not care. Stop trying to be all happy right now. The Patriots are getting spanked.
Wow.
Come on.
All right, Al Bundy.
Why was she getting excited when the Patriots were down? Is she not
Patriots excited? No, she was excited about Lady Gaga. She's a big fan of Lady Gaga, and that was what she was really looking forward to in the game. Okay. And the Patriots are getting spanked, and I'm just like, no.
Nobody can have
positivity
joy
right now.
Nobody
joy
can have joy
can't have joy. Exactly.
in the Burge house.
Exactly.
I remember that Falcons Super Bowl. I turned the TV off in the third quarter, and I went and laid down my bed, and I didn't cry because I don't cry for football games anymore. But it was hard. It was tough. And then all of a sudden, I hear my phone going off a little bit, ping, ping. I'm like, oh, what's happening? So I get back to the TV, and then the steamroll comes. 28-3 comeback comes, and it's probably my favorite Super Bowl of all time.
Yep, it was a great ending. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I think for me that's my favorite Super Bowl of the Patriots. Second favorite is going to be that Seattle one where Malcolm Butler intercepts the ball. Third is probably going to be that first Super Bowl run that we had. And then I kind of flip-flop between the Carolina and the Eagles one, and then the last Rams one is the last one because it was kind of a shit game.
I agree with you there. I just flip around Seattle and Atlanta. The emotional roller coaster that was that last drive for the Seahawks was unmatched, and we'll never see it again.
I still can't believe they threw the ball. I still cannot
Same
believe
here.
Pete Carroll threw the ball.
That memory popped up on my Facebook feed, and I was like, really? Oh, God.
I listened to the radio call from Bob Sosey and Scott Zolak for that interception, and it just gets me so giddy every time. It's good. It's intercepted. It's intercepted. Oh, my God.
God, Zolak.
Great memories of the Patriots and the Super Bowls, man. All right, but we do have a game this weekend we're going to get to. We'll discuss the X's and O's of the Super Bowl. We'll give you our predictions, then we'll talk about a couple different storylines that are going to be surrounding the Super Bowl. But before all of that, we're going to talk about a big trade that happened over the weekend. Matthew Stafford is being shipped off from Detroit to Los Angeles. In return, the Los Angeles Rams are going to give up a first rounder this year, first rounder next year, a third rounder this year, and then Jared Goff as well. But most importantly, they're also going to ship off Jared Goff's contract to Detroit as well, which is kind of the big story here. So, Puma and both Burg, what do you guys think about? What's your analysis and your instant reaction of that trade? And does this make the Rams an actual Super Bowl contender going into the next season?
Yeah, so, I mean, my thoughts on the trade are Les Snead just hates first-round draft picks because I don't think that guy has had a first-round draft pick going on 8 years now. But, I mean, kudos to him and kudos to the people that run, like, the salary cap numbers for the Rams by being able to mortgage off these draft picks to acquire veteran talent. It's almost like they reload every year for the Super Bowl. And, Jared Goff has been Jekyll and Hyde his entire career with the Rams. And, I think this move would bring stability to that organization that's in a Super Bowl winning window at the moment. Like, the defensive side of the football is an elite talent, and that window is going to start closing pretty soon when those chickens come home to roost with all those contracts. And on the offensive side of the football, like Cam Akers, I love that pick up in the draft this year out of Florida State. You have Malcolm Brown that they love a lot, Darrell Henderson that they drafted the year prior. I mean, the tools are there. And, Matthew Stafford's contract is team-friendly. I think over the next 2 years, it's like 20-something million dollars each year almost for like a cap hit. It's manageable. It's not that bad. And, he's not going to be banging the table for an extension. So he's not going to be like that squeaky wheel that, just got traded there looking to get paid. He wanted to go to Los Angeles. His buddy Clayton Kershaw pitches for the Dodgers, and one could make an argument that maybe there was some tampering involved because they just happened to be Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford just happening to be vacationing in Cabo at the same time, and they talked about this potential trade. But, I mean, all in all, good move by the Rams, possibly a good move for Jared Goff, a change of scenery. He said it himself in the interviews the days after the trade that he felt like he really wasn't wanted there, and the Detroit staff made him feel wanted, and they're going to look to run the football a lot. So, like, that scheme kind of makes a lot of sense for Goff, and I just hope he's ready to bite some kneecaps for Coach Campbell.
No, like, when I saw the trade come out and, I just thought, wow, what a price to pay for the Rams to get Matthew Stafford. Say what you want about Jared Goff. He is very much Jekyll and Hyde, like you said, Puma. But, he did manage a team to the Super Bowl with the Rams just 2 years ago. So when he's on, he can at least control the game and limit the mistakes to get his team to that point. Now, is it worth it to just dump him? I mean, that contract was atrocious. I won't disagree with that. But it screams a little bit of an overpay to me for the Rams. But at the same time, the Rams are essentially a quarterback away and solid, borderline above average, great quarterback play away from really being a contender in that NFC. And I think this trade has the potential to pan out for both teams. I mean, the Lions are not now hamstrung to be taking a quarterback with their first draft pick. I mean, it would still probably make sense for them to do it, but they're not hamstrung to do it now. And the Rams, they obviously hate first round picks, like you said, but they've got this great roster now with the offense is intact. They got Stafford, Puma, you listed off the running backs. You got Robert Woods, you got Cooper Kupp out there, like. It screams overpay on initial reaction, but I think that this trade really has the ability to work out for both teams down the road.
Yeah, and when I first saw this trade, it gave me a sense of it being like an NBA trade almost. Yes, sure, I can see that Matthew Stafford is worth a first rounder. That's fine. We all thought he was going to be a first rounder. I can see a third rounder as well for Matthew Stafford, but that second first rounder is what really screamed at me. And essentially, I think that second first rounder was just to get the Goff contract off the books for the Rams. I mean, you see this in the NBA all the time. People ship off, players just to get the contracts off their books. So it had that kind of feel. Now for the Rams themselves, I think you guys are spot on. It's a win now mode for the Rams. They've got to make some noise going forward because they really don't have any first rounders. But I want to see how this pans out because it seems like Sean McVay and Les Snead are thinking outside the box. They're trying this whole method of, well, listen, let's not take talent with the first round pick and try to essentially groom them into being great all-stars when you don't know if they're going to be all-stars or not, or even great players. Let's just go out there and get a Matthew Stafford who's already established. Let's go out there and get a Jalen Ramsey, and let's build in the medium part of the draft. Now, with that being said, you've got to hit on your second, third, fourth rounders, and it looks like they have been. I mean, for the last for the last 3 or 4 years, they've done a really good job of finding great talent in that third, fourth, second rounders, deep in the middle of the draft. So in regards to next year, I think the Rams are possibly going to be the favorites coming out of the NFC West. I think the Seattle Seahawks got some problems. I don't know if Kyler Murray and the Cardinals are ready to make a run. We thought they're going to make a run this year, but they obviously had some issues down the stretch. But I think the 49ers are one to watch because obviously if they weren't hurt and banged up, they would have made some noise in the NFC West. But looking forward, I think the Rams are possibly going to be, one, maybe 2 or 3 in the power rankings for the NFC to come out of that conference next year.
I definitely agree with you. I think that they're instant contender with Matthew Stafford as long as he can stay healthy and play the full season and all that. He's been prone to getting dinged up, but at the same time, he's one of the toughest guys to play the position in the league right now. So for me, they're an instant contender in the NFC for next year. If they return all their guys next year, they don't make any more drastic moves, trade away any of the guys on their roster, which I don't foresee happening, but they have an elite defense, and now their offense just took a huge step forward, getting a known commodity in Matthew Stafford. So, it's going to be interesting to play out. I mean, the salary cap impacts of these moves for this year, I think the Rams took in like a $22 million cap hit, dead hit next year for Goff, and I think Stafford was in the $20 million range for the Lions as a dead cap hit. Yeah. So we'll see how the offseason plays out, but right now it's for me the Rams are an instant contender. Thought they could make a run this year, and now they add Matthew Stafford into it and just elevates them that much.
Well, part of me thinks with that defense, they could have put up a better fight in Green Bay if Jared Goff could actually hold on to the ball. I mean, he had those injuries with his thumb that hampered him. I do believe if he was healthy going into that game, I think they could have come out of there with a win. And I think that's what Sean McVay is looking at. He's looking at his team. He's looking at it in a situation where he's got to win now. So he went and he was as aggressive as possible. On the other side, Jared Goff. I mean, listen, I think he's an above-average quarterback, and I, as a Patriots fan, would love to have him right now because we will take anything above average. But I am curious to see how this is going to pan out for the Lions, if they're going to go ahead and draft another quarterback and try to develop him while Goff is a bridge guy, or if Jared Goff is going to be a long-term answer. So we'll see how it pans out for the Lions on that end.
No, I agree with you.
Just bite kneecaps and you'll have a job.
Yeah, exactly right. One thing I want to hit on before we move off this topic is I want to talk about the Tom Curran article that came out over the weekend because essentially...
Here we go.
Can we hit on this before we move off this topic or no?
Why not? We already set the ship and sail. Let's go.
Well, Tom Curran came out with an article saying essentially that Matthew Stafford and the Detroit Lions had more of a collaborative feel to this trade. The Lions went back to Stafford and asked him where he wants to be traded to. And the thing that Tom Curran reported was Matthew Stafford said, trade me to any single spot except for the New England Patriots. And I wanted to kind of get your guys' gauge on that, what your thought process on that report was, and if that says anything detrimental about the Patriots right now.
All right, Burge, before you go, let me just get this off my chest real quick. So here's my thought. Now, one, I've been saying this offline. It doesn't make sense to trade the guy that's your franchise quarterback, who I called last week as Mr. Lion, all due respect to Barry Sanders. trade him to a team who just hired the head coach that just got fired 3 months before, who did not have a pleasant working relationship with. Like, that to me was instant, persona non grata on that trade. And number two, you have to think of it this way as well. Matthew Stafford, for his entire career, even in college, played either in a dome stadium or in a warm environment. And, it's something to be said about playing in New England in the cold. Like, he hasn't done that ever, short of going up to Lambeau or Chicago in December. This move to me makes a whole lot of sense to go out to the West Coast, and your wife wanted to go somewhere warm. So, like, that's how I would rank it. I don't really, I guess, take it as like a shot across the bow for the New England Patriots. I think really at the end of the day, the Matt Patricia hire was the bigger problem in this entire trade.
Now, I know Patricia is back in New England and all that, but like he wasn't like he was talking to Patricia for the trade. Patricia's an assistant coach. He's not the head coach, not the one making the calls. It probably did play a factor in, the Patriots not, really being a serious player for Stafford. And, say what you want about the report. I kind of echo what you're saying here, Puma. Not wanting to go to the cold environment. I mean, granted, also look at the Patriots roster right now. They don't have a lot of offensive talent.
The Detroit roster might actually be better.
Offensively, yeah, they have more weapons. You can't argue that. So, if you want to look at this as a shot at Bill Goat, here,
aka the Barnyard Goat.
if you want to look at this like this, that's your prerogative. Go ahead, go for it. But I think it lies deeper with A, the location, B, the Patricia hire, and C, the lack of talent on the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I was disheartened to see this report, because for me, I think I in my mind had this idea that maybe this is the year that finally, with Tom Brady leaving, and us having a down year with the Patriots, that essentially we wouldn't be able to attract any free agents to come to New England. And I thought that was just my own little storyline in my head. But the fact that it played out the way it played out, and the fact that somebody actually reaffirmed that via Tommy Kern's report, I mean, that kind of struck a blow to me as a Patriots fan, man, because I thought for sure that Bill Belichick would still have some sort of cachet to be able to bring in free agents to the New England Patriots organization. And I'm not saying that just one move in itself is gonna, do in Bill Belichick or not landing Matthew Stafford. That's not the deal. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, I think this speaks to a bigger problem that Bill Belichick has, the perception that he has around the league. It's not gonna do him any good that Matthew Stafford essentially gave him a big fuck you on all over national media, right? Essentially, that report did a lot of damage to Belichick's ability to recruit free agents to come to New England. So. It was hard to see that report, man. I hope it doesn't affect future free agents to come to New England. But at the moment, it doesn't look like it's a good situation for Belichick in regards to attracting free agents to New England. The other thing that I will say is, we heard that report about a week ago. It was somehow leaked that the Patriots are gonna be aggressive as possible in the offseason to get
that was from Kern as well,
right?
That was from Kern as well.
And I think you offering a second rounder and a player is not being as aggressive as possible to land a quarterback. This goes into my bigger issue I have with Bill Belichick. He believes he can win with anybody, and I think he's making those moves with that philosophy in the back of his head, because a second rounder did nothing at the bargaining table. Like, I mean, there's no way in hell you're going to win anybody over with a second round pick. So I hope he doesn't think. I hope he's just he didn't like Matthew Stafford, and that's the reason he offered a second rounder. But if he's going through this whole process thinking I can find a valuable quarterback that I can just kind of get for cheap, it's not going to be like that going forward for the Patriots, and it's going to suck because we're going to have another bad year next year.
Well, I'll just say, like, I wanted them nowhere in the ballpark of what the Lions actually got for Stafford. I wouldn't have wanted them to make that move at all. And in terms of acquiring free agents to come to, or attracting free agents to come to New England, I mean, there's been issues with this in recent past. even when Tom Brady was here. So it's like you don't have the allure of Brady now. Obviously, there's going to be an issue there. But even when Brady was here, I mean, that wasn't enough to attract some of these free agents to come here. So it's tough to see what the issue is. But again, in terms of offering a second round pick, I mean, I don't have an issue with them doing that. And at the same time, we don't know what the player was that they offered. And knowing what the player that they offered was, I mean, I have to think it was maybe a J.C. Jackson or a Stephon Gilmore in that trade, which doesn't really move the needle much to compared to what they received for Stafford from the Rams. But I mean, you had like Adam Humphries and Cole Beasley made offers by the Patriots, and they didn't want to come back when Brady was here. So, the environment here. Definitely plays a factor in attracting people to come here and play in Boston or in New England.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let's. Puma, you want to get any last thoughts on this? Or should we move on?
Yeah, I was just gonna try to pick your guys' brain real quick on the Stafford bit. A lot of people are trying to draw the lines of what Stafford got in, what Detroit, I should say, got in a haul for the trade, to what Houston could potentially get if they ever decided to trade Deshaun Watson. What do you guys think this does to any perceived market value that Watson may have with the Houston Texans?
Yeah, man, listen, I think when it comes to those prize quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson, you're never really going to get fair market value. Because I truly believe the going price for Deshaun Watson in the trade is going to be probably 3 first-rounders and maybe 3 second-rounders. But even that's not going to be real market value for Deshaun Watson. So, it's one of those things where I'm in the belief now that the Houston Texans are going to call his bluff, and they're going to essentially make him play the season. And they're probably going to move him at the trade deadline or next offseason. But whenever they move him, it's not going to be fair market value for somebody as sought after as Deshaun Watson.
No, I kind of agree with you, Jay. You were spot on with your prediction. I am 100% behind what you predicted was going to happen with Deshaun Watson this year. They're going to force him to play there, even though he doesn't want to be there at all. In terms of the price, I mean, if you're not spot on, you're close. I think at least 3 first-round picks. And I got to think roster-controlled or a team-controlled contract, few roster players have to be going back to the Texans for them to get their fair market value for him. It's tough to break down the Lions trade because that I firmly believe that one of those first round picks that they included in that trade was just for Detroit to take Jared Goff in a salary dump. So it's tough to evaluate it, and it'll be interesting to see if Houston actually gets anything, any legitimate offers that they're going to consider for Watson, if they're even going to entertain them.
Right. No, I don't think they're entertaining them, and I think I forget the name of the reporter, but she works for Bleacher Report. She put something out there that two executives in the NFL, one in the AFC, one in the NFC, has been calling Houston, and they're basically telling him that they have zero interest in trading him. But I mean, if I'm the general manager, if I'm Nick Caserio, and you're offering me a trade, 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and young roster talent that is team control because my salary cap is in cap hell, or I'm hanging up the phone. And I think with all that being said, if there was ever a trade partner that could do this, it might be the Carolina Panthers, because they have a lot of young studs on the defensive side of the football, and that defensive side for Houston is an absolute sieve. And I firmly believe that J.J. Watt is going to be traded this offseason so they can get at least a second-round draft pick, because they don't have one in the draft this year. If you were to have a trade partner, I think Carolina would be ahead in the clubhouse.
Yeah. If I was the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I know it will never happen because you never trade within your own division, but if I was the Jaguars, I'd pick up the phone and call Houston and be like, hey, listen, here's a first rounder, which is Trevor Lawrence essentially, and maybe another first rounder next year as well, because at least at that point, Trevor Lawrence is a young, controllable asset for the next 4 to 5 years on the cheap that can have a great bedrock for the Houston Texans to build off of. On top of that, you have another first coming next year, and maybe you can squeeze a couple of mid-rounders out of the Jaguars as well. I would really consider that, but obviously it's never going to happen because you don't trade within a division in the NFL.
Can we just say how far the Houston Texans have fallen in just 1 year? Like, you go to the divisional round, pushing the Kansas City Chiefs to the brink, and in fact, they should have won that game last year against the Chiefs. And look at them now; like, they're an organization in complete disarray, and it's going to be a messy standoff with Watson and the Texans this offseason. It's going to be interesting to watch it, but it's going to be messy, and it's not going to be good, especially for a guy I like.
Well, the question I have is, how far does Deshaun Watson want to take this? Because, he's doing a lot of things right now that seem like he's digging in, but is he actually going to dig in and sit out the season if they call his bluff? That's the big question here. Has Deshaun Watson and his agent sat down before they started this whole endeavor and said, listen, there might be a chance that you might have to sit out the season. Are you okay with that? And if he is, then yeah, he might be successful in getting traded out of Houston. But if he isn't and he falters, then he might be there for the long haul.
I think he's going to be there for the long haul. I mean, there was a report that came out yesterday that some radio personality said his agent said that Deshaun Watson's not going to attend OTAs, and like the agent quickly shot that down. Like, everybody saw what happened with Le'Veon Bell when he sat out a year, and I think they're drawing parallels to what could happen to Deshaun Watson if he sits out a year. And let's be honest, I know he got a lot of that money on his new contract last year as a signing bonus, but he's not an idiot. He's a smart guy. He knows how much money he's going to lose if he sits out a whole season. He's not gonna leave that money on the table. He'll be there.
I mean, at the same time, like, it's hard to compare what Le'Veon Bell did to what Deshaun Watson could do here. I mean, he's a quarterback. It's the most prized position in all of sports, essentially. And he's a he's a rushing quarterback. He's a scrambler, and he likes to run. It could go a long way in preserving his long-term longevity as a quarterback in the league if he does sit out and he gets his way and he gets to go where he wants to go. I mean, it's hard to compare the two because Le'Veon Bell was at the end, more towards the end of his lifespan as a running back in the league when he sat out. And Deshaun Watson is not even in his prime yet for a quarterback, so it's one of those things.
I mean, this never happens in the NFL. You don't get young, great talent at 25 years old wanting out or is somehow available. I mean, the Houston Texans just absolutely butchered this whole thing from the start. I can't believe that they're actually at this point where their star quarterback that might be right up there with Patrick Mahomes without the winning, obviously, because he's not surrounded by all that talent. But I mean, with his own physical skill sets of running and throwing the football, it's right up there with Patrick Mahomes. And I cannot believe the Houston Texans are at this point where, I mean, that just speaks to the shit organization they are, right?
I just think like, why is he going to go out there and risk injury if he doesn't want to be there and he knows they're not going to win anything? Where he could sit out, preserve himself, work out on his own, and in the position that he plays, going into his prime, being traded out to a team that wants him, will build around him, and will care about what he thinks going forward. I think it may make sense for him to do it. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the Super Bowl 55 breakdown and predictions. As most of you know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday for Super Bowl 55 in Tampa Bay. So, Puma, I'll turn it over to you. What are some of your X's and O's analysis of the game, and who do you have winning this game?
Well, real quick off the jump, I'm kind of disappointed that the NFL put the kibosh on them firing the cannons for any touchdown. And listen, like, it doesn't even have to be if like just Tampa Bay scores. Like, I think you should just fire the cannons if like whoever scores a friggin' touchdown in the game. But the NFL put the kibosh on it. No cannons for the Super Bowl. But I mean, for me, X's and O's wise in this game, I mean, it's going to come down to, can this pass rush of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers attempt to contain Patrick Mahomes? And I mean, we saw it 2 weeks ago against the Buffalo Bills. I was on this bandwagon as well too, thinking, all right, like, he's a little bit compromised with like the toe, like the turf toe injury. It's legit. He's probably going to need surgery in the offseason. But Buffalo stands a puncher's chance, and he picked them apart. He was able to move around the pocket, and I'm gonna love to see what the front four and front seven of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do against this, especially because one of the there was a close contact COVID isolation for the the Chiefs. One of them was the center for the Chiefs, and then the other one was Demarcus Robinson, a wide receiver for the Chiefs. They might be able to play in the game, but that offensive line was already thin at best, and now you have the center that may miss if he doesn't test negative throughout the rest of the week. I think Jason Pierre-Paul might be in line for a decent day. I really like the Bucs defense in this game. They're second against the pass. They can be beaten on the ground, but I really want to see what Todd Bowles is going to do on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, well, for me, I mean, looking back to their matchup earlier this year, it's going to be the key for me is going to be how are they going to contain Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I mean, the last matchup, Tyreek Hill freaking ran wild, had almost 300 yards receiving in the game and 3 touchdowns. You know, how are they going to contain this? And, you know, Puma, like you said, the offensive line for the Chiefs is definitely a concern. You know, I think Eric Fisher went out after the last game. Is that correct?
Yep, he blew his Achilles.
Yeah, he went out after the last game. So they're dinged up on the offensive side of the ball. Can they get the pressure? You know, I mean, Mahomes can handle the pressure. Can they get enough to where they kind of knock him around, throw him off his game, and not be able to find his, you know, his bankies, so to speak, in Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill? And again, that also comes back to how's the Tampa Bay secondary going to play. I remember watching the NFC Championship and thinking about Carlton Davis back there being like, whoa, he's getting beat. You know, I mean, he might have made a play or two in that game, but for the most part, I don't think he looked that good. So that's going to be the battle, in my opinion, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm not really too concerned, especially, or at least in the first half of the game, with the Chiefs' defense limiting that Bucs offense. I think that they can do it. They showed it earlier in the year. You know, it's going to be, for them, the battle is going to be in the second half when, you know, Tom Brady is Tom Brady and, you know, makes his living in Super Bowls as far as we can remember. And that'll be a real big battle that I'll be interested to watch.
Yeah. Well, listen, for me, it comes down to 3 different things that I'm watching for in this game. The offensive philosophy for the Buccaneers going into this game, I'm wondering, is it going to be the same old no risk it, no biscuit offense where there's some quick 3 and outs? And that can cause some severe issues, or is it going to be more of a balanced attack with some running aspect and taking some time off the clock? Because we all know you've got to do whatever you can to keep Kansas City on the sidelines. I'm of the belief that even if Kansas City comes out and has a bad first quarter or bad first half, they're just one big play away from absolutely going off and going berserk. So it's all about limiting those big plays, limiting their offensive mojo, keeping the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. And I'll be interested to see how Bruce Arians comes out and essentially how he thinks he can beat this team. The second thing is Tyreek Hill. That's always a factor for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's in this league where you've got a game plan around him. Like, I know Travis Kelce is a great player, but he doesn't scare me as much as Tyreek Hill does. You've got to somehow either, roll coverage over Tyreek Hill, maybe bracket him, maybe double team, whatever you got to do to make sure he doesn't have 203 yards in the first quarter like it was last time is going to be key. And then finally, Puma, you hit it on the head. The Tampa Bay pass rush against that injured offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs. How is that going to play out? I do believe that with the injuries the Chiefs have on the offensive line, Shaquille Barrett, Devin White, and JPP are going to have a good day. So if they get 3 to 4 sacks on Mahomes, hit him a couple times early, that might be the key to the game. But in the end, I think I'm going to roll with the Buccaneers here. I've been going against Tom Brady for this whole year, whether it was against the Saints, against the Packers. I'm not going to do that anymore. So give me the Buccaneers 28-24, and Tom Brady gets a 7th Super Bowl.
Yeah, I forgot to say this off the top, but right now, as of recording, the spread is Chiefs as the favorite by 3 points. The over-under is at 56. I expect this line probably to move back and forth a little bit more between 3 and 3.5. I personally like the Buccaneers in this game, not only just from a betting perspective, but I just like Tom Brady a little bit more, which I never thought I would live to see the day of saying that.
He's become a Brady fan.
But I mean, years. But like you have to think of it in totality, right? Like he's overcome inept coaching down in Tampa. And, like I said last week, like, God bless Byron Leftwich. I love me some Byron Leftwich, just not as an offensive coordinator this year. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Arians, the buffoon that he is, but he's overcome that. He's overcome not having a training camp with these guys. He's been learning on the fly. And they're in the Super Bowl at this point. It's very hard to go against the Buccaneers when up until the Buffalo Bills game, the Kansas City Chiefs have been coasting all season long. I think that's going to come back and bite them. I took the L against the Buffalo Bills. I get that. But I think that chicken's going to come home to roost with Tampa Bay win the Super Bowl at home.
Yeah, I mean, Jay, you might roast me for this, but I think that the Buccaneers playing defense against Patrick Mahomes need to take a page out of what the Patriots have done to the Chiefs in the first half of a game for the last 4 years that they played them, and in limiting their offensive output completely in the first half of these games. Obviously, in the second half of those games, Kansas City finds a way to get through the cracks and put up some points. But if I'm Todd Bowles, I'm watching that film and trying to scheme a game plan, with the guys that I have to limit whatever I can get out of their defense to limit the Chiefs from scoring quickly and often in the first half of the game, to allow my offense, led by the greatest quarterback of all time, to generate us a cushion to go into the second half. I'm gonna pick this game with my gut, not my heart, for the first time all year. I'm gonna pick the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game by 3 points. But make no mistake about it, I'm gonna be rooting for Tom Brady and the Bucs in this game to win, and we'll get into why later on.
Here comes the Burge hedge.
The hedge.
No, it's not a hedge. That's not a hedge at all.
The hedge.
I'm picking a winner, and I'm rooting for the opposite.
Well, this
How's
is
that a hedge?
This is the same thing we roasted Puma for when we talked about that Dolphins versus Bill scenario, and he said the same exact thing. That's essentially a hedge. You pick one or pick the other.
No, Puma's a Bills fan and loves Josh Allen and wants him to win. There's a difference. All
right, people, let's
get into why.
Moving that goalpost.
Let's keep this on the tracks. All right, we don't need our Twitter conversation.
We'll get into why. We'll get into why when we talk about the storylines. Let's go.
But yeah, so you're spot on right. There's a couple of storylines we want to talk about coming out of the Super Bowl, and everybody loves to talk about legacies. That's everybody nowadays thinks a game is going to define a legacy. We had that with Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers the other day. But the question I want to ask you guys is, in terms of legacy, and I'll start with you, Puma. Who are the biggest winners and losers coming out of the Super Bowl if they win or lose the game?
I mean, you have to go with the Chiefs if they end up winning this football game. I mean, you have Patrick Mahomes winning his second Super Bowl in a row, went to back-to-back AFC Championship games, and actually three in a row. But I mean, he's on a trajectory to be potentially to be the greatest of all time. I mean, if he wins this game, he's on a trajectory to possibly overthrow Tom Brady. And I mean, even without a win, I still think that Andy Reid is the best head coach in the NFL right now. Not saying he's better in totality of his career, but I mean, you definitely have to start looking through life as a football fan through those glasses if the Chiefs win this game.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you on that regard, man. I do believe that Andy Reid has the most to gain out of the Super Bowl because, I'm of the mindset that Andy Reid, with another Super Bowl win and the past success he's had without Patrick Mahomes, could catapult him into the conversation as the best coach in this current era. And we all understand that Bill Belichick has his 6 Super Bowls, and we get that. But let's just see how this pans out, right? Let's say Andy Reid gets 2 Super Bowl wins now with his quarterback that he has. He has 5 championship appearances in the NFC with Donovan McNabb. He's won with a multiple of different quarterbacks, something we can't say Bill Belichick did. And I do believe that if they're on this trajectory and about another 2 or 3 more Super Bowls, I mean, when you have 4 and you've won with different quarterbacks in different conferences, I think that might speak volumes in regards to Andy catapulting himself in front of Belichick for the best coach of all time.
Yeah, well, for me, this is all about Brady versus Mahomes. And Puma, you kind of hit it a little bit with, if Mahomes wins this game, he's the first back-to-back Super Bowl winner since Brady did it with the Patriots back in 2003 and 2004. And, Patrick Mahomes is still young. They still have, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce there with no signs of slowing down. For me in this game, I think this game means more for Brady than it does for Mahomes, just because if Brady wins a seventh, it takes him another step, further away from, anybody else that's ever won in the Super Bowl at the quarterback position. And, he loses this game. Say what you want about the record. He's been to 10 Super Bowls, but it gets him down to 6-4. He's, won 6, lost 4. Mahomes would be 2-0 in the Super Bowl, and with his whole career ahead of him. I mean, if he plays as long as Brady does, it's going to keep that narrative going. And for me as a Patriots fan, I want that narrative to be squashed as soon as possible, because I want what I witnessed the last 20 years with the Patriots to never be touched. And if Kansas City wins this game and beats Brady, you can definitely anoint the changing of the guard in the NFL in terms of the quarterback position. And if Brady wins, I mean, he's just going to further cement his legacy, going to another team, taking them to a Super Bowl and winning it. Again, he said he's not done. I don't think he's going to retire if he wins. I think he's going to keep going as long as he can. And, there's a chance he could add more Super Bowls to his resume. I just think that this game means more to him than it does to Mahomes, because Mahomes has his whole career ahead of him, and the Chiefs are showing no signs of going away. They are still far and away better than any other team in the AFC. It's not going to surprise me next year if they're back here in the Super Bowl again for the third year in a row.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well said. And then the last question I want to hit on as well in regards to storylines out of this game, is this the most impressive Brady run, what he's doing with the Buccaneers this year? And I'll lead off this by saying, if we're talking about Super Bowl wins, if Brady actually wins the Super Bowl, then yes, I will say this will be his most impressive Super Bowl win because of everything he's had to go through this year. Essentially leaving a system he was comfortable with 20 years, coming down to a new team that was 7-9 last year, going through the whole COVID thing. We don't have to rehash all of it. But essentially, he took a team that was 7-9 last year to the Super Bowl, and a lot of the guys give credit to Brady, as being that guy that gave them belief to actually get it done. So if they win, this will be the most impressive Super Bowl win they've had. But if they don't win, then I do think the most impressive run for Brady is still going to be that 0-17. I mean, that was just absolutely beautiful week in and week out. Obviously, they didn't win the Super Bowl there, but we're talking about runs here. Week to week, that year in 07 was just something special to behold, and that, in my mind, is even the most impressive run.
Go ahead, Puma.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of win or loss, I think this probably would be the most impressive run, just because, not to beat a dead horse, like everything that they were up against this year. But, I mean, if they win, it is hard to top 28-3. Like, to me, I think that would still be the most impressive win.
Well, and then just the Super Bowl. That's just Super Bowl. We're talking about the whole run, you know what I'm saying?
Right. But, I don't know, man. After everything, they had to go through up until, that season, they were kind of rolling. But, they faced real adversity. They were about to be the first team ever. The New England Patriots, everybody in Mount Olympus. You have Tom Brady and Bill Belichick sitting up there. And they are being emasculated on national television. I am talking massive shit while working while I worked that day. I was talking so much shit. My favorite one, no lie, was there was a meme of former President George H.W. Bush, God rest, in the wheelchair, and the meme was, George H.W. Bush has more rushing yards than the New England Patriots right now.
Wow.
And I just kept hammering that, and I was talking massive amounts of shit. And I come home, and the wheels start falling off the bus, and they end up winning. They end up winning the game. And I get it, we're talking about runs, but in my opinion, 28-3 is virtually impossible to top, regardless.
See, for me, what he's done this year, obviously with a new team, new players, and getting them to the Super Bowl is very impressive. I'm not going to dispute that. I was a naysayer on the Bucs from day one once he signed there, and he's, Brady does what he does. He proves people wrong. But for me, the most impressive runs for Brady in terms of Super Bowl wins are the 2014 season, and that was the Seahawks Super Bowl, and the obviously Puma, like you said, the Falcons Super Bowl. I mean, in 2014, you had a month into the season, Brady plays probably one of his worst games that he's ever played for the Patriots. You have everybody calling for his head, calling for Jimmy Garoppolo to play, and they turn around, they have an unbelievably impressive year, capped it off with a comeback in the Super Bowl. Obviously, they were helped up by Malcolm Butler, but they came back and they won that game. And 2016 speaks for itself. I mean, Brady was suspended the first four games of that year, and they came out and they still rolled. And you can't argue what they did in that Super Bowl, coming back and winning from an unprecedented amount of points. Never been done before. First overtime win in the Super Bowl. So for me, those two are the most impressive Super Bowl wins. And like Jay, I agree with you. You can't argue what they did in 2007. That roster that was assembled by Bill Belichick to catapult that offense to the next level. Yes, assembled by Bill Belichick to build that offense, getting Wes Welker and Randy Moss in there. No, I'm taking my jabs where I can get them.
Here we go.
But you can't argue that season. It's a huge disappointment. I've never been more disappointed by a Super Bowl loss in my life than that game, and having them lose that after such a great season. But non-Super Bowl wins, you can't top 2007.
Yeah. Listen, you guys are spot on, man. And Brady, listen, I don't think if he does win this game, a lot of people are talking about, hey, well, listen, he's going to retire and walk away. That's not who
Hell
Brady is,
no, he
no way.
He wants to stay out of the house from his Brazilian wife. I'm Brazilian and I can say that. We're all fucking psychotic, all right? He wants to be out of that house, away from Giselle, as long as humanly freaking possible.
What about his kids?
He loves the kids, but his wife is batshit crazy. Listen, I'm Brazilian. I can say this shit. We are insane. Right. I'm amazed Tara wants to be in the house with me. I'm just saying. Right now.
Well, listen, like if he ends up winning this game, every single time the Super Bowl comes around and Tom Brady's in it, the questions come up. Are you going to walk away if you win, blah, blah, blah. And that's not what Tom Brady is, man. I feel like they're going to have to essentially, drag his ass off the field, with like broken bones and contusions and everything. And let's not kid ourselves, man. He's gonna be back next year as well. They're gonna be one of the favorites. They're gonna be probably hosting a whole home NFC Championship game. I thought next year was gonna be their big run. I feel like this is 1 year ahead of schedule. And if he somehow wins this game and somehow gets back to Super Bowl next year, that's an impressive run in itself as well, man. That's pretty impressive.
It's the allure of Brady, and he finds a way to beat the naysayers. I mean, he's been doing it since he was drafted as a 6th round draft pick.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about that. And I know Brady didn't have a great second half against the Packers, but even his throws that were intercepted were essentially like punt passes down the field. Like even when the guy plays bad, he doesn't play horrifically bad. He still managed at a pretty well level. So listen, we're watching something special here. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy Sunday night, win or lose, and if they lose, I'm just gonna turn my phone off and go to sleep, and that's gonna be the end of that.
Oh God, we'll be looking for a new host.
Jay, you make a good point. You make the point about him making those mistakes, but they're not like timely mistakes. The mistakes that he makes aren't like catastrophic, and he's been doing that for 21 years now. Like he'll make his mistakes. I mean, I think in the NFC, in conference championship games, like he throws a massive amount of interceptions. I think it's the most in any game that he's played in. But
they're never bad. You know what I'm
saying? They're never costing him the game. And that's something to be said about that.
I don't want to say like this because there's a negative connotation. So I'm not gonna call him a game manager, but he has a good feel for the game. He has a great feel for the game where essentially he knows, well, listen, I've got to have a shootout here. Like, I've got to go out here and I got to score 50 points and I got to do that. Or it's like, all right, well, listen, they're sputtering themselves. Because on Sunday against the Packers, he saw that he threw 3 interceptions, but he also didn't have to force the ball down the field because he knew the Packers themselves were sputtering as well. So he has a very good feel for the game.
I will say that interception he threw where he was getting pressured and he just chucked it up. I think I said it last week. It just reminded me so much about Drew Bledsoe when he would be back there and he would just chuck it up for grabs. And it would just be like, oh my God, what are you doing? Eat the sack. Come on. But like you said, it wasn't a timely mistake. Like he made the mistake. It wasn't he knew he had the feel of the game. He knew what it was going to mean. He knew the Packers weren't doing anything offensively, and it was basically a punt. So
it wasn't a Trubisky level back-breaking interception.
It wasn't Matt Hasselbeck in overtime throwing a pick to Al Harris to secure the game. So
we're gonna get the ball, we're gonna win.
Or it wasn't Brett Favre down the Superdome. That was the worst one I've seen.
That was bad. He forced that. Yep.
What did the announcer say? This isn't what Chicago? I forget what he said, but it was a great line. Man. It was just one of those things where you knew Brett Favre was getting to that point because he was getting riskier and riskier with the ball, and he's rolling out. He didn't have to make that throw. He threw it across his body. Game over.
He could have ran with it.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm super excited, guys. I'm pumped. What's on the agenda for game day snacks? What's the go-to Super Bowl game day snacks? For me, it's gonna be chips and it's gotta be some wings. That's always a classic.
Yeah, same here. Chips, wings. I also love me some pizza bites as well too. Tostinos action. That's definitely where it's at.
You know what's funny? I had those a couple weeks ago. They're not as good as I remember they were as a kid. I don't know if it's been so long since.
So there are some communists in the population, so it's okay.
No. For me, like you said, we're gonna make some wings in the Instant Pot, and maybe some pulled pork. Chips, obviously. Mm-hmm. Chips, obviously, are our go-to snack with some salsa and some dip and. I'm just looking forward to watching another Super Bowl. I love watching the Super Bowl every year, no matter who's in it. And last year I was disappointed. I hope I'm not disappointed this year. So,
yeah. Is this going to be your son's first Super Bowl, right?
It is going to be his first Super Bowl, and he's going to stay up probably for the first quarter.
Well,
and then he's going to bed.
don't traumatize him if Brady wins and you start swearing like a sailor in the house.
No. If Brady wins, I'm going to be happy. Come on.
Oh, that's right. The hedge.
The hedge. If you want to call it a hedge, go for it. If I'm betting the game, I'm betting the Chiefs.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you log into DraftKings, the official sports book of the Pro Football Radio podcast, and put that ticket in there, my brother.
I'll prove it to you. I'll send it to you.
You live in the Shire, right? So you can just
hell yeah.
do it from home, right?
I can do it from my house.
You can bet that game live, lucky bastard.
Prop bet.
Yep.
Hey, listen, good prop bet that I put in. I put a lot of money down on Gronk to score a touchdown. And the thought process is, right now they're tied for the most postseason touchdowns between a quarterback and a receiver. They're tied with Jay Rice and Joe Montana with 12, trying to get number 13 to get that record. And I saw Brady was forcing the ball to him in that Saints game. And he didn't force as much in that Packers game, but I do feel like they're going to try to get that record. So that's a little prop bet that I'm going to throw out there.
Puma, I'm asking you, what's your what are you going to take on the national anthem length in this game? The over/under right now I'm reading is 1 minute 59 seconds.
Who's the performer?
Do we even know who's singing it?
Let's find out.
I'll look it up right now.
Super Bowl 55.
I mean, I'm kind of inclined to take the under.
It's Eric Church and Jasmine Sullivan.
Yeah, who's Jasmine Sullivan?
Oh, wait,
well,
it's a duet?
People,
I'm going
over.
Two
people go over, right?
I'm going over.
You got to go over two people.
I'm going to go over. We're going to get some throat-clutching moments of singing the national anthem. It's going to be another reason why I say just dig up Whitney Houston and have her sing, because she's done the best national anthem I've ever seen in my lifetime. But, yeah, I'll take the over on the national anthem. What do you guys think for heads or tails?
What do you mean?
Like for the prop bet. Do you think the coin's going to win
heads or tails? Give me
tails. I don't know.
I'll take tails too.
I guess tails never fails. Whatever. Doesn't really matter.
Well, will Eric Church or Jasmine Sullivan forget or omit a word from the national anthem?
Is that a live prop?
I'm reading right now. It is yes plus 1,000, no minus 5,000.
Is that on DraftKings or no?
No, I'm looking on Sporting News right now.
Okay. No, I don't think they're going to forget any words.
I don't think so either.
Question for you guys. If the Buccaneers win the coin toss, do they take the ball and try to score first, or do they defer and give it to Patrick Mahomes first?
you take the ball and you let Tom Brady go down and score on a scripted drive and get right out in front and put Patrick Mahomes chasing from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if Brady comes out hot like he came out hot against the Packers, you know what's funny? I don't know, Burge, about you, because you watch a lot of Brady as well, but you can just tell in pregame warmups if Brady has a calmness, or you can tell in the first, I would say, drive or so, depending how calm he is, how good the game is going to be for him, because I saw that calmness against the Packers, and there are games where I see he comes out and he's shaking, and I'm like, all right, this is going to be a bad day. I don't know if you picked up on that as well.
I will say this. Tom Brady has never scored an offensive touchdown in the first quarter of a Super Bowl that they played in. So that's something to consider too. Like the Patriots, they were never a good first quarter team in Super Bowls. So that's something to consider. Maybe they say, okay, well we'll let Patrick Mahomes give him a shot and trust our defense here. He never has had a good first quarter, and I remember back to 2011 against the Giants when he freaking had an intentional grounding in the end zone, caused him a safety. Boom.
I remember that.
Down 2 points right there. So, yeah, you can tell, and if he comes out and scores a first quarter touchdown like right away on the first drive, like okay, let's go. But I don't have confidence that he's going to do that. Just knowing what I know.
Yeah, he's usually a second half player, and I think this is one of those teams where you can't afford to hang around for a half. I mean, by halftime, it might be 35-0. It might be game over.
Yeah, so who knows?
All right, cool. Well, listen, do you guys want to get to anything else, or you want to plug it up?
Well, real quick, and then I'm going to plug it up unless you guys have something to say. In regards to the Watson news, so Vincent Bonsignori, he's a beat reporter for the Las Vegas Raiders. He works for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. He tweeted out a story. This is his tweet. Multiple NFL sources indicate to me that Derek Carr is a hot commodity, and it's expected that multiple teams will pursue him via trade that could lead to the Raiders pursuing Watson in a blockbuster trade. So apparently the Raiders are also in the market for a quarterback and are willing to pay a premium penny to do so.
Could you imagine Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert, and Patrick Mahomes in that division?
Oh, God.
Sign me up. Sign me up for that.
Oh, yeah. Insert Bill Belichick meme. Walking in Detroit.
Oh, my God. Insane. Definitely something to keep an eye on, but that was my last bit.
All right, cool. I will plug it up and call it a day, fellas.
All right, so this episode of the Super Bowl preview podcast can be found on Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, Google Podcast, Stitcher, YouTube, and Apple Podcast. Like, subscribe, download. In the case of Apple Podcasts, be sure to leave a 5-star review. That some algorithm is factored in, and it helps us to get promoted and viewed a little bit more to the masses. So 5-star reviews are greatly appreciated by the three amigos of the podcast. Social media-wise, Facebook, Instagram, Pro Football Radio Podcast, Twitter, at PFR Podcast. I'm on the Twitter machine, Brando_Puma. Jay Cheema is at Jay Cheema, and Burge is at Burge the Goalie on the Twitter machine. Not only is he going toe-to-toe with Jay over Bella Goat versus Bella Fraud / Bella, Barnyard Goat / Billy Goat. All the negative connotations of a goat that you can figure into a tweet. That's good banter on there, as well as my man Burge going toe-to-toe with anybody with the pulse at 98.5, the Sports Hub. Definitely worth the follow, like, subscribe, and hit us up on social media. Otherwise, that is all I got to say.
Burge, I'm beta testing a couple more names. I ran one by Brandon the other day, and he loved it. But I'm going to hold that one back for a little bit.
Good, because I don't want to hear it.
I'm going to use that when I really need that one.
That's the nuclear football.
You're not going to need it because they're going to do something in this offseason, so you're not going to need it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait for us to get Jameis Winston. It's going to be awesome. Woo!
Jameis Winston's better than Cam Newton. Let's go.
Well, that is true, yeah. It is true.
I mean, my bottle of whiskey, Buffalo Trace whiskey, is better than Cam Newton right now. So.
You're going to be drinking a lot of that this offseason, so.
Don't I drink a lot of it. Now, before we wrap up, I got to do this. I'm giving you guys fair warning because apparently I did this last week and I almost blew some people's eardrums out. But this one's going to be special for Freddie.
Headphones off.
Freddie Soliotis, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in the Super Bowl, and you're fired!
Gets me every time.
Wow, every time. All right, folks, enjoy the Super Bowl. Same time next week. See ya.
Via con Dios!